surface, and it seems like there is so much that's already happened. Obviously, we had 3 NFL games last night. The College Football Playoff Committee has more or less given an ultimatum to a few teams, Notre Dame being one of them, and that ultimatum is you need to blow out Stanford, and you better hope that you get a little help from Oklahoma State, and that is no joke because they are sitting below Iowa now. They're looking up at Michigan State, at Iowa.
You also know that Iowa and Michigan State, one of them is going to knock each other off.
This is true, but still, I mean, Notre Dame's sitting at number 6.
Yep. Oh, I know.
They're going to need help.
Well,
they're going to need help.
And the way I look at this, and you and I talked a little bit about it, is that Iowa right now they're having a game with the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They're leading 28-17. That's in the third quarter.
Right.
This game right now has a feeling of back and forth. It's going to be they've just gone back and forth scoring. Iowa came out and scored. Nebraska turned around and scored. Now Iowa's come back and scored again, and Nebraska has the ball currently. So I mean, it's something that it's going to go back and forth. But I got a feeling, like I said, Iowa and Michigan State will take care of each other. The other wild card team up there is Oklahoma. Oklahoma has to play Oklahoma State this weekend.
That is the team that I think Notre Dame has the best shot of getting help from, and that being the case, Oklahoma State still has they have a hell of a big row to hoe having to play Oakland. Oklahoma.
I don't think, and even if Oklahoma State wins, they're not going to jump past Notre Dame, I don't believe, at this point.
No, but I think that would be enough to knock Oklahoma out of contention.
Yes, I agree so. And I think if Oklahoma State wins, that's only going to be good for Notre Dame.
Right. Now, above all of this, above every bit of this, we have Notre Dame taking on Stanford. Notre Dame just eked out a win versus Boston College at Fenway.
Right.
Now, we're looking at Stanford, and we are looking at a team that pound for pound can play Notre Dame on the front line. Offensive line, defensive line, in my opinion, they're very close. They may not be quite as good offensively, but they're very close. And, they can get beat deep, but at the same time, when Notre Dame's missing C.J. Prosise, you kind of know what their game plan is going to be. I mean, this is going to be all up to Deshaun Kaiser to make these plays and get Notre Dame in the end zone, especially going up against a team that has a much better offense than anything Notre Dame's seen in a month.
Yeah, but, I think this Notre Dame team, to me, and looking at this through a year, I mean, this is a team that has played to their competition, be it good or bad. I mean, they played up to Clemson. I mean, they've played up to some teams, but they've also played down. And last week, I mean, one thing that came out, and I was reading about this, if you take a look at it, they were beating Boston College, what was it, 19-3, and some late touchdowns brought Boston College back. They were beating someone earlier, was it Wake Forest? They were beating quite handily. They gave a couple late touchdowns. That's what they've done. They've played down to some of these lower teams, but they've also done a good job of playing up to the good teams. When they did play against Clemson, I mean, that was a close game, and when you're playing on the road in a monsoon, and to do what they did, they had a chance to win that game, and I think you take away a couple of bad plays, and Notre Dame takes that ball game. So I mean, they have had a rough time here the last couple of weeks, but is that more of a matter of Notre Dame playing down, or these other teams just being up for Notre Dame coming in and saying, this is our season right here, this is our bowl game because we're not going to go to one?
I think if you look at the way Notre Dame is prepared for the last 3 or 4 games, it doesn't feel like they've prepared to play just anybody. It feels like they've kind of prepared to play their like almost like the weakest game they can possibly play and still come out with a victory. And now I know they're not really preparing like that, but that's the product you're seeing on the field. And unfortunately, in the way that this shakes out, the product that you see on the field is what the playoff committee is going to look at.
And that's the problem that they're running into, and that's why they dropped from 4 to 6.
Right.
Is that it wasn't that they weren't winning. It's just when they get down to that one last category, the eye test.
Right.
They weren't passing the eye test.
Right. What do they look like?
Now, did I think Michigan State should have passed them? Do I think Oklahoma should have passed them the way they did? Realistically, no. But, I mean, the way you look at this committee starts from 0 after every week.
Right.
So it didn't matter what you did. It matters what you do right now. And
right.
I think that's something that's taking us, and myself included, a little bit longer to get used to that.
And even though they do start from 0 at the same time, there's still a few teams that you look at and you're like, how can they not be perennial? How can it? Well, I should say every week. One of these top 4 teams, or even one of the top 6 or 8 teams,
right.
And then there are some that you look at and you're like, how can they be?
Yeah.
And one of the teams I look at in that light is Alabama.
Well,
I have no earthly idea how Alabama can be in the top 4 after looking at the kind of schedule that they've played. I mean, seriously, some of these teams, I swear we need to double check, make sure they're not glorified high school teams.
Well, here's the thing. Of the top 4 teams, and you and I are going to disagree on this, I think, but of the top 4 teams, the strongest team to me is Alabama. And I think they have the strongest path to get to that Final Four. I mean, who are they going to play? They got to play Auburn this next week. When they win, and I don't think they're going to have that much of a problem with Auburn, though that the Iron Bowl is always a tough game. They've got Florida. Florida hasn't done anything to impress anybody. I mean, that whole SEC, realistically, the SEC this year is down. And you can't say they've cannibalized each other. They've just looked horrible. There's only been a couple of teams
nobody's
out.
Really looked good.
No. But I take a look then, and you go to Clemson. You go, well, Clemson's your automatic number 1. Mm-hmm. Clemson still has to play North Carolina. And
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina is not a team to be taken lightly. This is a team that can put up a lot of points. And it's going to be played on a neutral site. It's not going to be played, like Clemson had to play Notre Dame. That's been their toughest game all year at home. This is one that they're actually going to have to play a tough team finally on the road. They haven't had to really do that all year. Every tough game they've had has been a home game. And that's something that's really, played to their favor. Iowa or Oklahoma, we already talked about Oklahoma. They got to play Oklahoma State yet. And that's going to be a tough game. Now, the thing with Oklahoma is they do not have a conference championship game either. So just like Notre Dame, their season's over. Now you get to Iowa. Iowa right now, they have Nebraska in hand. That game can still turn. There's still a full quarter left. But, they're eventually going to have to either play a Michigan State team, a Michigan team, or Ohio State team, depending on what Michigan State does this week against Penn State
right.
in that Big Ten championship game. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, taking a look at those teams, I think all the other 3 teams on that one side between Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State, I think all 3 will go in favored against Iowa because Iowa really has had an easy test on the other side of the Big Ten. So, there are some teams up ahead of Notre Dame, me looking at it as far as Clemson, Oklahoma, and Iowa, that to me are not also guaranteed to be in that Final Four when we finish it up in 2 weeks.
Now, when you say that you think Alabama's got the tougher of the roads to get to the playoff, how are you saying that with LSU and Florida both being very beatable right now? I mean, where are you getting that? Because I'm looking at Alabama. I'm looking at Alabama being able to walk over LSU and walk over Florida.
But as I said, I don't see Alabama having a problem getting to the Final Four. I don't see them losing. I really don't. I mean, I think Alabama crushes Auburn. I think whoever comes from the other side, be it Florida or LSU, and I believe it's Florida right now, it's going to be there, that they're going to crush Florida. So, I mean, I think, right now, pencil Alabama into the Final Four.
I know I
think you can take a permanent marker and put that in.
Which, like I said, is insane because if you look at their schedule's not that great.
No, it isn't, but they have played at a level. I mean, if you look at this Alabama team, this is one of the best teams in the nation. I mean, you take a look at it pound for pound. Yes, they don't play, a tough schedule. Notre Dame plays a hell of a lot tougher schedule than Alabama does, and they always will.
Right.
Because Alabama will play Alabama, Southern State, Mississippi, whatever, and I don't care. Add about 6 different names to the team, and that's who they're going to play.
Right.
It's going to be some team that was, like the Sisters of the Poor.
Right.
But, the thing is if you take a look at their team and you do the eye test and you look at Henry and you look at these guys, you go, damn, this is a good team. This is a team that, you're going to put there. And I think the other thing that they bring with them is they bring with them the reputation of what Alabama's been the last 10 years, especially under Nick Saban.
That's going to really, I mean, I don't know. I think it's really going to cheese me off if I see Alabama end up taking one of these 4 playoff spots and you've got a team that's really, worked their tail off to get where they needed to be. And they end up on the outside looking in, knowing full well Alabama's played nothing but cupcakes all year.
Who would you put in front of Alabama right now? I mean, who would you put? I mean, I look at Clemson. Yes, I say right now I put Clemson there because they deserved it. They're an undefeated team. They deserve it. Would I put Iowa there? No, Iowa's not played anybody.
No, I wouldn't put Iowa there.
Iowa's almost beat by NIU, though. And speaking of the Huskies got a favor today. Western Michigan beat Toledo. So NIU will actually go to the MAC championship game.
Congratulations to NIU.
Yes.
Your alma mater.
If I take a look at Iowa really hasn't played anybody either because their side of the conference sucks. And they suck badly.
Right.
You take a look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma has that horrible loss against Texas at home.
Right.
That they still have to try and justify. Yes, they've beaten some big teams, but still they have not. They've lost the one game. Is that one game a better loss than what Alabama did? I don't think so. But I think Alabama passes the eye test, and that's where you get to that critical thing they look at. Alabama passes the eye test, and I think they're going to pass the eye test onto the 4 no matter what they do because they aren't going to lose to Auburn and they aren't going to lose to Florida.
I don't like it.
Well, I
don't like it.
No, I understand what you're saying, but it's like this is almost like the BCS. I mean, you're going to get to your Final Four, but how do you keep Alabama out of the Final Four? Who are you going to put in front of them?
I don't know. I mean, do you put a TCU in front of them? Do you put a Baylor in front of them?
I don't.
Do you put?
I mean,
do you put a Michigan State in front of them?
We're going to get a lot of questions answered tonight. TCU and Baylor play tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to get a lot of answers there. Do I put Ohio State or Michigan in front of them?
No. I don't know about Ohio State. Ohio State's kind of done what Alabama's done the entire year, with the exception of they had like 1 or 2 games where they were actually competitive.
I mean, they have some, they have a win against Michigan State. They have a win against the number 5 team.
Right.
Or no, I'm sorry.
No, Ohio State lost to Michigan State.
Lost to Michigan State. That's right. But I mean, the thing is Ohio State was right there, and you're also looking at the defending champion. Yes, you can't go on that. But again, if you take a look at the eye test, this is a good team. Now, what you got to take a look at, and if you look at the eye test right now, and this is what they're supposed to do, is to go from 0, right?
Right.
The way Oregon's playing right now, would you want to play Oregon?
No.
I wouldn't either. Yet Oregon is not going to find, they aren't going to get the top 10. But yet right now, I think they're one of the top teams. UNC is at number 14. How was UNC at 14, the way they've been playing the last 2 months?
Well, I mean, obviously you have to give some merit to the beginning of the schedule too.
I understand. But I mean, the way they've been playing, and yes, their schedule isn't so tough. I want to see North Carolina versus Clemson. I really want to see that game. I think that's a game where Clemson's going to run into that high-powered offense, and this is going to be an offense like Notre Dame brought, but hopefully it won't be played in a monsoon. I think it's going to be played in a dome stadium, so you aren't going to have the weather play, havoc with the offense like Clemson had when they played Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had to go into that horrible weather and play.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think there's still going to be a lot of things that shake out. And right now, if you get to my Final Four, my Final Four right now, if I was looking at this point, I said, who do I think, how it plays out to the end of the season? I see Alabama. I see Michigan State. I see Notre Dame. And my fourth one, I'm not so sure, but I want to say right now I'm leaning more towards Clemson over Iowa.
I think I would have to just hold serve until we get to the end of tomorrow.
Come on, give me a projection.
I can't. Oh, jeez, I can't.
Give me a projection.
All right. Well, if I had to go number one until somebody beats them, I need to put Clemson number one.
Okay. Do you think Clemson's going to beat North Carolina?
Boy, that's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Obviously, whatever happens tomorrow is going to completely shake things up. But as it sits right now, I'd have to put Clemson number one. Number two, I don't know if I'd put Alabama. I think you've made a case to leave Alabama in the top four, but I think Alabama sits at number four.
Okay.
I think number two, I'd have to give the nod to Oklahoma right now.
Okay. I don't think Oklahoma gets by Oklahoma State.
Well, no, but they haven't played them yet.
That's right.
So I said, as of right now, I gotta give Oklahoma number two.
Okay.
I still have to give Notre Dame number three, even though they looked as bad as what they did against Boston College. They looked bad like that. They looked bad against Boston College, but if you look at the full body of work of this team and what they've gone up against, who they've played, and what they've played with, meaning all the injuries and everything else, and the fact that they are a last-second two-point conversion in a hurricane away from being an undefeated team. They've played almost nothing but Power 5 conference teams the whole first half of the schedule. And of the weaker, and I use finger quotes there, teams that they've played, only Boston College has a record with more than 2 losses.
I've got a question for you about Notre Dame. Do you think Notre Dame is held, and I believe this, do you believe that Notre Dame is held to a higher standard as far as what is expected for them as a team? Because, I look at what you say and I agree with it 100%, 150% if I could go that high, but since you're going to go to 100%, I'll have to stop there. They play a tough schedule. When they put their schedule together, they don't put a cupcake in there.
Right.
They really don't.
Right.
Yes, you go, well, they played Wake Forest, and they played Texas, and they played Boston College.
Wake Forest has 2 losses.
When you schedule them.
Right.
When you scheduled them, what were they like? Texas was not a 4-16.
Right. Scheduling intent. That is huge.
And the thing is they don't schedule. The cupcakes on their schedule was Navy, and Navy finally lost their second game of the year today.
Right. Navy was a one-loss team going in.
That was the cupcake on their schedule.
Yeah, number 15 Navy going into today.
Yeah, and the other one was Temple, and Temple's also a one-loss team.
Yeah, Temple one-loss team in the top 25.
And, those were the cupcakes for the Notre Dame team this year. And that's, right. I look at it, but they're held to that higher, I think a higher standard. And the reason they're held to a higher standard is because they're not in a conference. They're not in a conference, and I think there's enough jealousy amongst the other conferences and the leaders in the BC or the I can't say BCS in this college poll that all come from these top 5 conferences. there's enough bias against them that I think that's what holds Notre Dame down as much as it does.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Notre Dame and you're a non-conference team right now, everything is against you. Everyone is against you. You have to be perfect in every way.
Yes.
And if you're not, then they have something they can hook you on and they can pull you right out of the playoff. It's still, regardless, I think this opens the door for an expansion of the playoffs. I cannot wait until after next year when that is on the table, because I really see at least a 6-team playoff with 2 bye weeks.
I think you go to 8. I think you go to 8 right away.
8 is good. 8 is good. 6 is okay. 8 is better. I would prefer like a 10-team playoff, but I think top 8 I think would be just fine.
Once you get past 8, Steve, now you're getting into 2-loss and 3-loss teams and so forth. And it's like, where do you cut off? Okay, let's just go to the NCAA basketball tournament and we'll throw 64. No, I'm sorry. We'll throw 66 teams in.
Obviously.
You got to get to a point where you stop. And I think with this, I think 8 is fair, because once you get past 8, you're going, well, do they deserve to be? No, they don't deserve to be there. If they can't get to the top 8, they don't deserve to be there.
Right.
Because what happens is that you get to number 5, 6, and 7, and that's where the tough cuts come from.
Right.
And you don't want to stop at 7, go to 8, then you got an even schedule. You got the 8 teams, you go down to 4, you go down to 2, and now you got your champion.
Right.
And the thing is what you do is you play your 8 games, you play those 4 games about mid-December.
Right.
You play the Final Four like you do it right now. You play it towards the bowl games. Then you have your championship game a week later.
Right.
And now you're talking about what these – and the thing is that these are the players that are going to play in the pros. These are the ones that are going to play in the NFL, that they're going to be playing week after week, and they're going to be able – when they get to the playoffs, they got to play like this anyway. They might as well get used to it now, because that's where they're going to be.
Well, I mean, at that point, you're only talking about one more game. You're not talking about – I mean, you're saying, we're adding 4 more teams. That's a whole other week of college football. Well, you're only asking the players to play one more game.
And that's it. And then people go, but they're student athletes. No, come on, really?
Yeah, don't give me the student athlete thing. I will laugh in your face.
Don't give me the student athlete. Yes, there are some of them out there, and some of the schools, and I think Notre Dame is one of them, that pushes student athlete.
Right.
When you go down to Alabama, you go to some of these other places.
Yeah, you're there to be an athlete.
So no, they aren't student athletes; they're athletes.
Right.
And that's what they
happen to have to go to class, because
they have to go to class. They have the tutor that helps them make it through the class, so they can go out there Saturday after Saturday and make their university millions and millions of dollars.
Right. That's exactly it. So yeah, I don't buy into any of that. But I would like to see the 8-team playoff, and this is one of the reasons why I think so, because you're looking at, and not even Notre Dame, but you're looking at a few other teams that I think could end up being left out in the cold that would get.
Why shouldn't Michigan State and Iowa be included? Why shouldn't Baylor be included? Why shouldn't Ohio State maybe be included, or UNC? Why are these teams?
Or hell, for that matter, why not Michigan by now?
That's it. Or why not Oregon? Yes, Oregon had a horrible start, but take a look at it. They lost their starting quarterback for the first half of the season.
Right.
Now he's back, and no one wants to play them. No one wants to play Oregon.
Right.
So, I mean, I look at that, and I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration too. Injuries to a team and what they affect the team. If you're taking a look at it and you're supposed to start at 0 every day or every week,
yeah.
Why is Oregon down at 17?
Well, I mean, you can't put everybody at number 1 and then start picking them apart.
I understand it, but what they're saying is that we have a clean slate every week. No, you don't.
I think the only clean slate they have is that they don't do the moving up, moving down thing. They just reseed based on the adding of that one extra game.
What the thing is when they put this together, remember they said we want to get away from the BCS where when you're ranked number 1, you're going to stay number 1 until you lose no matter how you play.
Right. Right.
We want to do it the body of the work. What you're playing right now, the eye test. Well, if you take a look at the eye test and you realistically, if that's what you're doing this for and that's what they said, and you're supposed to start at scratch every single week, why is Oregon at number 17?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
I mean, that's the thing. Why is North Carolina at number 14? The thing is North Carolina realistically should be ahead of Michigan for the way they're playing. But Michigan in a power conference, in a top power conference, which is the Big Ten, especially that whatever is the Heroes or Legends or whatever division it is,
right?
What they're playing in right now, they have more pull and more say than the ACC and where North Carolina is sitting. And it still comes down to what conference you're in and what you're playing. I can bet you $100 to $100 that if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten right now, you're going to get a lot more consideration than if you're the ACC or one of the other power or the Pac-10.
Oh, certainly.
I mean, the Pac-10 has just been they've been screwed all year.
Right.
Everybody wanted a team from the Pac-10. Pac-10 is not going to ever win the top 10. Now, the closest thing is going to be, Stanford. But I think this week, Notre Dame is going to take out Stanford, and you're going to see Stanford drop out of the top 10.
I'm going to tell you what, the Notre Dame Stanford game is going to be. It is going to be key. Maybe just as key as a few other games, but it is definitely going to be key.
Oh yeah, almost definitely.
But I don't think Notre Dame's going to have as easy a time as what you do.
Oh, no, I don't think they're going to have an easy time, but I think they're going to pull out the win. Like I said earlier, all the way at the beginning, Notre Dame, in watching them this year, they have played to their competition. They've played as good as their competition is. And whether it is Clemson at number 1 or it's going to be Stanford at number 11, they're playing at that level. And I think they're going to bring a big game this week. And I think the thing is that I think these kids saw that they dropped from 4 to 6, not because they won, but because they won ugly. And I think they really want to go out and prove something. I don't think they're going to win big. I don't think it's going to be a 35-7 game. But I really think that they're going to win, and they're going to make it look decent. Now, is that going to be enough to get them in? I don't know. I think it should be. I think this is going to be like a 17-10 game, a 17-7 game, or if they get a little bit higher scoring, a 24-17 game. It's not going to be a big spread, not at all.
I think, well, considering that Notre Dame is a 3.5 point dog in this game, yep. I think the fact that even if they win, that's going to be huge.
I think so too. I think they're going to win by a touchdown, though. I think it's going to be a 1-touchdown game. I
think they almost have to. You don't have a choice. If they win by a
touchdown, that's a dominating win. I really think so against the Stanford team.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take more than that, though, to be looked at with any kind of serious consideration from the playoff committee. Anyhow, we've got to hit a break. When we come back, we had a lot go on yesterday in the NFL. Brett Favre's jersey retired. Brett Favre made his rounds in Green Bay, and Tony Romo, collarbone injured again. There's a whole lot going on. We're just kicking it off. We'll be right back in just a little bit. This is the Cheap Seats on XERS Radio.
It's Maximus and the bartender.
And we're clear.
Excellent segment, sir.
It was good. It was good. I'm just over here.
And the thing is yesterday, all 3 of those NFL games, very key to the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Very key.
Kevin Durant is not going.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think right now, Detroit has a very legitimate shot to hit the playoffs. And I wouldn't have said that 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Carolina looks like a team that could go unbeaten.
Man, I'm gonna tell you what, they're surprising the hell out of me.
The thing that surprised me with them is that they're so big, they're so athletic, but the other thing is they don't have one weapon that's going to beat you. They have a team. They have a team that's going to beat you because between the running and what passing they do, I mean, God, I tell you, Greg Olson, are the Bears kicking themselves in the ass right now?
Yeah, right.
I mean, good luck. Well, we want a tight end that can block. Hell no, you want a tight end that can catch the ball and run down the middle.
Right.
I tell you, work was hell today, buddy.
Well, I'll bet. I don't know. You guys are just kind of like sitting around chilling out.
When you came by, we were one of my retail bankers. It's her birthday today.
Oh yeah.
So we were actually back when you came by. We gave her a card and her birthday cake.
Nice.
So I mean, when they have a birthday, I get a birthday cake and we make it a big deal for them. Today's my son's birthday too, so we're going to do that a little bit later.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so got both. I'm going to go watch St. Louis and Cincinnati play on Sunday.
Oh, that would be cool.
We're taking Zach back down to Cincy. I got 4 tickets. We're going to sit and watch the game.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I was hoping they'd still be undefeated. That'd been a cool game.
Yeah, right.
But I think it's going to be great anyway. I'm really looking forward to it. Weather should be nice too.
Make sure you got your cardiologist on speed dial for this one. Find us on Facebook to check out our daily food and drink specials.
Ooh!
What?
This just in. My son just gave this to me. Everett Golson has been suspended a semester for. Oh, he's still Notre Dame. Oh, about Notre Dame being the academic thing. Golson being suspended for academic probation. I thought you were saying he was suspended now. My son's giving me little notes here. It just doesn't give me. That's old news.
Nice.
He was giving me a hassle on my academic statement.
That's funny.
That's the Michigan grad in him.
That's great.
It is.
All right, give me 1 second. We're coming back.
Yep.
And the Cheap Seats is back. XCRS Radio. If you missed any of the show, might I remind you, you can check it out live here every night from 6 to 8, or every Friday night from 6 to 8. If for whatever reason, man, I am just butchering this
schedule.
And yeah, it's been a long couple of weeks.
I am.
And if for whatever reason you can't catch us there, you can catch us on demand anytime, Spreaker or iHeartRadio. And you can get the iHeartRadio and the Spreaker app both from your Apple Store or Google Play Store. You can even get it from the Windows Store now. So check that all out.
Also, you put it up on Facebook also, which is nice too.
Well, yeah, you can always check us out on Facebook.
Yes.
So
check us out on Facebook because you can pull up the show and it's an excellent listen.
Yeah, absolutely. When when I'm not stumbling over everything, it's
I think you do a good job there, sir.
So last night there was if the turkey and the dressing and the mashed potatoes.
I had tears in my eyes last night, Mr. Willis.
Do what?
I had tears in my eyes last night.
Well, I can understand that. The Packers lost, so
No. I'm talking halftime. When I saw my childhood hero standing, come out there and stand next to my grown-up hero, and they hugged right there on the 50-yard line. I actually had tears in my eyes.
That's very touching.
It was. It was awesome. I can remember growing up and going outside and playing in my Bart Starr uniform or Bart Starr jersey,
right?
And playing until that thing practically fell off of me, and my mom bought me a new one,
right?
And watching Brett Favre from when I actually lived in Atlanta when he was traded, while I was down in Atlanta to Green Bay, and just going, damn, this kid's going to be good.
Oh, that was back when they were still calling him Brett Favre.
They were Brett Favre. And we're going, how the hell do you get Favre out of Favre? I don't understand that, but okay, I'll go for it. And watching
that
him
weird
do what
Creole speak.
Yeah, watching him do what he did for Green Bay last night. I don't care if you're a Packer fan or not, but to watch those two players on that field, that just had to give you tingles up and down your spine. And the other thing is that you were looking at two of the best quarterbacks that ever played this game.
I think it doesn't matter if you're a fan of the team or not. When you see somebody that at one time held almost every record in the category and the position that he played,
yes,
he comes out there to be honored.
Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad. he comes out to be honored. And this is somebody who lived his life to play that game. And he loved it just as much on the last game as he did on the very first game. And you can't do anything but smile and respect the admiration they had for the game.
Did you watch some of the tributes that were put out there? And Antonio Freeman was great because Brett had a list in his locker of all the fingers that he broke when he threw the passes. I started laughing. I could just then they're showing him throw the fastball. They clocked his ball, and they said if he was a pitcher, he'd be pitching the ball at over 100 miles an hour.
Oh, I can imagine that.
Can you imagine a football coming at you at 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, that's just that would scare me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you talk about the original gunslinger, the original guy that when he came out, the exuberance that he brought to this game, he made it fun again.
Yeah.
And as a Packer fan, I went through all the hell of the 70s and the early 80s, and then to have Favre come in and do what he did, you're just going, damn, this is so great. I mean, it's so great to be a Packer fan because we suffered for so long.
Right.
But then to see him there with Bart Starr, good God, that was like, I tell you, I sat there and I had tears in my eyes watching that when they brought Starr out. I mean, you talk about a classy man and a classy quarterback with a team that did what they did with Vince Lombardi. That was just awesome.
Well, I think as a Packer fan, halftime was fantastic, but unfortunately, as a Packer fan, that was about the only thing you had to cheer about.
Well, it was
because on the field, the Bears ended up clinging to a lead at the very end of the game. A good defensive stop by the Bears to seal it. Jay Cutler goes for 200 yards and throws a touchdown. Alshon Jeffrey looks like he is really starting to kind of dial into this offense now.
Here's the other thing that I got to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
We've seen, and yesterday was a prime example in all three games. We're starting to see officiating starting to really come in and affect some of the games. Well,
I can admit that there were I saw most notably in the at the very beginning of the Dallas Cowboys game, I saw a pass interference play that would have extended the drive in the red zone for the Cowboys, but ended up winding up, they kicked a field goal. Now, obviously, it didn't matter at the end of the game. By the end of the game, that didn't matter much. But at the same time, at the very beginning of the game, that kind of sets a tone for the team. If you feel like you're getting cheated on calls, you kind of have a tendency to, what do I care?
Well,
because they have 6 extra, guys out there helping. So, but
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. The thing I'm talking about, we've been seeing things where, you're listening to the announcing, and I'm watching these games, and the announcers are going, well, it should be this way, and it turns out they're going, that's a bad call, and you're looking at it and you're going, I agree with you, that's a bad call,
right?
And I saw some calls go against the Packers and some things for the Packers. I'm going, man, that shouldn't have happened. But I saw late in that game where Rodgers he's probably the best at drawing the defense off sides.
Right.
They drew the defense off sides. He actually hit a receiver, and the receiver actually hung on to the ball, which has been really amazing lately if you're a Packer fan. Caught the ball, had an open route to the end zone, which would have given them the lead against the Bears late in that game, and they stopped the play. Now, the play is not supposed to stop on an offsides unless the person is unabated to the quarterback.
Right.
And the person that jumped was not even close to being unabated.
Right.
And this was the third stop that I saw during this game like that. I'm just going, hey, wait a minute. Listen to your own rules and take a look at them and then follow them.
Right.
But it wasn't just in that game. I mean, I saw it in the Detroit game. I saw it in the Dallas game. And you're just going, what the hell is going on with the officiating right now?
It has been a problem. It's been a problem all year, and I think it reared its ugly head mostly in yesterday's games. I think as we get towards the end of the season, we're seeing it a little bit more, and it's become accumulation is what we're seeing. We're seeing all of these calls starting to kind of compile together and create something even bigger. There's blown calls all the time.
Yes.
You're going to see blown calls here and blown calls there, but there are so many this past season and even the season before. There were so many blown calls that seem to have been at crucial points and at crucial times. Now, if that's an anomaly, I don't know, but it seems to be that, man, you're seeing a lot of these calls at a lot more crucial point in the game and a lot more crucial time in the game. And boy, I've never been a conspiracy theorist before, but boy, you can really you can get an idea as to where some of these conspiracy theories would come from when you start seeing, scoring plays and stuff like that get called back for a very obvious bad call. And it really has a tendency to bug you a little bit.
Do you think that instant replay has led into this?
I don't know if
the hope of the official that the instant replay is going to save us. I don't know if I necessarily want to call it that. I do say the officiating seems to have gotten a little bit more lazy. I don't think it's gotten lazy to the point that we have just no officiating. We're just going to let replay handle it all. Because if that's the case, get rid of the officials then. Just let the guys play and stop the game up in the booth if you need to. Yep.
But now, I don't know.
We talked earlier. All three of those games yesterday had some really serious impact for the season, which is quite unique for a Thanksgiving game, because usually when you have the Detroit Lions play, there's nothing really that they're playing for. But I thought yesterday, all three games had a really serious impact towards the playoffs as we come up to them.
Well, I can tell you this. Here's what I got out of the Detroit game. Now, I guess we'll go chronologically here.
Right.
What I got out of the Detroit game was, I think that's the last straw for Chip Kelly.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
I think Black Monday, he will be the first name to get drafted. I don't even think he'll wait till Black Monday. I think week 17 Sunday, right after the game, he's gone.
I think he's going back to college. I think he's going to go back down to LSU because I think Les Miles is going to be let go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Les Miles will be let go. If he goes down to LSU, that'd be interesting. I kind of thought he would stay in the NFL and maybe go to Tennessee, where Marcus Mariota is, become an offensive coordinator.
There are too many good jobs out there. USC. I think Texas might be open. I don't know if Charlie Strong is really going to be as safe as they think he is. LSU is going to be open. There's some really good jobs out there.
Right. Okay. That's what I got out of the Detroit game.
Did you get the feeling that maybe Detroit might be putting themselves into playoff contention?
I don't. And the reason why I don't is because the NFC is not really very convoluted once you get past the divisional leaders.
If you take a look at Atlanta is your low seed at 6-4.
Right.
There are a ton of teams at 5-5 and 4-6 or 4-7 is not out of it.
No, it's not out of it, but there are so many teams at 5-5.
Yeah, but it's so. I think this has been the most watered down NFL season I've seen in years.
Well, there's a lot of parity. There is a lot of parity. You have a few teams where the cream has really risen, but there is a whole lot of parity. Right now, officially, nobody is out of the playoffs right now.
No.
And that's almost unheard of, because usually by now.
How can you get to week 11 and have nobody out of the playoffs yet?
Right. And as of right now, you usually at least have, one or two teams where you've got nobody yet.
Yep.
Now the Dallas game, I mean, obviously we saw Tony Romo go down.
Yes.
That's not even the biggest story to me. The biggest story to me is, does this game finally validate the Carolina Panthers for everybody? I mean, they were able to just dominate the Dallas Cowboys, who a team who looked like they were on their way back. Tony Romo looked pretty good last week.
If you won that game, who was the favored team? Dallas was.
Dallas was the favored team.
Dallas was the favored team going into that. I mean, that's how much creed. I mean, that's how much, Carolina was given.
Right.
And Carolina went in there and stuffed them.
I mean,
they
beat.
You got to be kidding me, really?
Yeah, they beat the living crap.
Yes, they did.
Out of Dallas. And if you can't look at Carolina and say this team is legitimate after that game, and after being 11-0, if you can't look at them and say, no, this team is legitimate, you're crazy. You're out of your mind.
The thing waiting for, and here's the thing. I like Carolina, and I think that this could be a team in the NFC that may go undefeated, because they really don't have a tough schedule left. I think if you find a team that's going to force them to pass, that will be able to stop the run and stop Cam Newton from running the ball, this is a team that can be beat. It really is. I'm not sold on Cam Newton as a passer. And I think if they get into the passing downs, I think that's where they're going to struggle. If they have to pass, if they get behind and so forth, I think that's where this team struggles. This is a really good team, though. This is a big team. It's a fast team. It's a strong team.
Very good on defense, too.
But I think if you take away their running game and their ability to move it that way and put them into a passing situation, that's where you have the best chance of beating this team.
Now we move into the Green Bay and Chicago game. Now this game, with Cutler throwing for 200 yards, Alshon Jeffrey looking like he's part of this offense now finally, and their defense starting to really show signs of great improvement, not just small spurts of improvement, but very good improvement from the beginning of the year. And at the same time, Green Bay kind of taking a step back after last week, looking pretty good.
I can't say that their defense has gotten that good. I think the offense for the Packers is still that bad.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because they didn't play the Packers last week and their defense looked good. So, I mean, their defense is now I'm not saying they have a good defense, but they're getting better from week one. They look much better than they did on week one.
They look better than week one.
That's where I'm going with that.
I think the weather conditions played a big factor in it, but I think you still have the fact that Aaron Rodgers is not comfortable with any single receiver that's out there, including Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I think the two big questions to me coming out of this game is what has John Fox kind of started to move some of the pieces on this Rubik's Cube the right way? And then on the other side in Green Bay, does Green Bay have enough confidence in its offense to be able to move into the postseason and actually do some damage? Because now, remember, unless the Vikings lose this weekend, they have sole possession of first place in that division.
Yes, and I mean, right now the Packers are a wild card team.
Yeah, and they will be fighting for a wild card position because once again, you were talking about an NFC where a lot of teams are right in that same win level.
The thing is right now the Packers have a 2-game lead over anyone in the wild card.
Well, if they keep playing like this, they won't have that for long.
No, and that's the thing, and I think that's the thing that really is hampering the Packers is that Aaron Rodgers, who is still probably one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the NFL, has no confidence in any single receiver. I've watched how many numerous passes did you see dropped last night, and a couple that would have gone on for touchdowns.
Right.
And this is the thing that when you're a quarterback and you put the ball where it's supposed to be, and you watch these receivers week after week drop them, what's that do for your confidence? It shoots it to hell. And this is a team that, they cannot get separation right now. That's what Jordy Nelson, and you go, well, one receiver is not that important. And no, he is, because he made the other receivers well. When you put the number one guy on Randall Cobb, now you got a problem. If you have to put the number one defender on Jordy Nelson, that opens it up to where now you got number 2 or number 3 on Randall Cobb. And that makes a big difference.
And you're also talking about a double team, like every play on somebody like Jordy Nelson, where you may not have that on a player like Randall Cobb. I never buy into the idea of one wide receiver doesn't change the game. I mean, seriously, you take Michael Irvin away from the Dallas Cowboys, what would they have done? You take Jerry Rice away from the 49ers, what would they have done? Seriously, that, one wide receiver can mean a lot. It really
can't, because if you take a look at the players Devontae Adams went up against last year when he had that breakout year, and now who he's going up against this year, and he can't get away from these guys. That's the difference. Devontae Adams is not a number 1 or not a number 2. He's a number 3. But when he has to play number 2, he's not at that level yet. He may never be at that level. But right now the Packers have to play him at that level. And that's the problem. Randall Cobb is not a number 1 receiver. He's not. But he has to play like that right now. And I think that's what's hurting the Packers. And the thing is, in that game, was that a big step forward for the Bears or a huge step backwards for the Packers?
Right. Well, I think it might be just a little bit of both. I mean, I hate to ride the fence like that, but it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. You have, Green Bay looking around at each other in that locker room going, man, what do we got to do to beat somebody around here and do it on a consistent basis? Then you have the Bears on the other side sitting in the locker room afterwards going, hey, we are, this is working, guys. John Fox is starting to figure this out.
Was it interesting to see that Aaron Rodgers was more like Cutler-esque, and Cutler was playing more like Aaron Rodgers?
It is kind of funny, switch roles a little bit. That is kind of funny you bring that up, because I did kind of notice that just a little.
And that's the difference in the comfortable and the, how comfortable are you with your receivers?
Right.
How much confidence you have in them. And I think that goes to show that, here's the thing. Cutler's been playing with this for the whole year.
Right.
And, and so has Rodgers. But the thing is the receivers for the Bears have stepped forward, whereas the receivers for the Packers have not.
So I want to step away from these 3 games. I want to talk about something a little bit. It'll regard the Cowboys game, I guess, a little bit. But now we've seen in 2 weeks, we've seen 2 quarterbacks go down, and have actually gone down to the point to where you're asking questions about their future. One being Tony Romo, one being Peyton Manning. I want to get a hot take from you right now. What do you think? You think Tony Romo and Peyton Manning come back next year?
Peyton Manning does not come back. Tony Romo will come back. I think Peyton Manning has achieved everything. He's got a Super Bowl win. He's got the MVPs and everything else. He doesn't need to keep going forward. Tony Romo does not have that. He's like the Dan Marino of the Miami Dolphins. He still needs to prove himself, and I think he will be back because of that.
Now, when you look at what Tony Romo has gone through this season with the collarbone and then coming back, which in my opinion came back way too early.
Yes.
What kind of damage do you think that would have done? I mean, seriously, that's the first thing I think of is like, man.
Here's the thing. He's not going to play for another, 6-7 months?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to be 7 months.
He's not going to play probably until next July. Okay, let's talk 8 months.
Right.
He'll be ready.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you're talking about a collarbone, man. This is something that that you ding that thing the wrong way, you're done.
Rodgers broke his collarbone 2 years ago. Came back last year, was MVP of the season.
Well, yeah, sure, but at the same time, he didn't come back too early and then re-injure it.
No, he didn't, and he didn't break it again. But if you give them 8 months to 8 months to heal it, I think that's going to be a big difference.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the way this is looking for Dallas. I think Dallas needs to start hunting for a quarterback in the offseason.
No, I think they have to anyway because Romo's 37?
Well, it's true too. I mean, he's not.
You have to look for a new quarterback, but I think he's still got a couple good years left. I really do.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's all downhill from here, man. I think we're seeing we've seen the best of Tony Romo. Period.
Right. Okay.
I'm
not going to argue with you on that one because it could be. I think he still has 2 good years left, but yes, I mean it could be downhill. I mean Peyton Manning went fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. After neck surgery, it was never the same with him. He came out and he ended up, breaking a few records, but boy, that was about it. I mean,
but you got to take a look at what was around him too.
Right. Yeah. He had so much around him it was ridiculous. And then he goes to Denver and just kind of a few good pieces come in for a little while, and then it just kind of all starts falling apart over there too.
Oh yeah.
So I don't like the way it's working out for Peyton Manning either. I think with this, the plantar fascia, I don't buy it.
No, I don't either.
His brother played with it. You can get orthodontics put in your shoes now. My wife had it in both feet.
He just doesn't have the arm strength anymore, Steve, and I just don't think he can do it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And he just didn't want to come out and say, "Hey, look, yeah, I got a rag arm now, guys. I can't throw the ball like what I used to." I mean, I saw some of those plays, man, and I had said this, a couple of weeks ago that he had no business being out on that field. Brock Osweiler should have been the starter since like week 4.
Well, I agree.
Really had, and hey, if Denver keeps trotting out there and they want to keep trying Peyton Manning, which they haven't now, but if they wanted to, so much the better. As a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I'm okay with it.
For the Kansas City Chiefs, you're right.
Who are 5-5 now and right back in the playoffs hunt.
They're right in the playoff hunt. They really are.
Yeah.
I really think they're going to make it now.
Yeah, not bad for a 1-4 team that was looking like they were going to be looking for the number 1 pick. Now they're sitting at 5-5, and they're one of the scariest teams in the NFL.
They're the Oregon right now.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that they have the easiest schedule going the rest of the way. They only have to play one team above 500, and that's Buffalo.
That is true.
So, anyhow, we're going to hit a break. When we come back, there is a new champion in the world of NASCAR, and that is Kyle Busch. And Josh Briggs is going to be here to tell us pretty much about how everything went down and just kind of give us his thoughts as we wrap up the NASCAR season. And just think, in a couple of, like a month and a half or 2 months, it's going to be right back in it to Daytona.
Yes, we are.
I'm sure we're going to touch on that in a little bit. You're listening to Cheap Seats on XERS Radio.
What's up, y'all? It's Jason Roos from Velvet Jones, and I listen to XERS
All right,
Radio.
let me call Mr. Briggs.
I'll be back.
Okay.
They share their favorite songs and their future favorites, too. They have live interviews with authors, comedians, artists, and musicians, and lots more. They also have a Word of the Week with Mad Dog Ho, the official lexicographer of Internet Radio. Tune in every Thursday, 6 p.m. on xers.com.
Hello.
Briggsy.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Not much. Hey, it's only me.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, dude.
Hey, not a problem, man. Did you get enough to eat?
Oh, man, you know I did.
That's my boy.
Yeah, I just, it was, family. It was interesting.
Scoobies at 220.
Oh, there you go. Everybody in the family doing okay?
Yeah, I mean, mom's taking it hard, but, mom's going to take it hard.
Well, I'll be back in with you next Friday for sure. So, because I'm off at 4:30, and then we'll be good to go. College football playoff stuff going on now.
Oh yeah, we got a lot going on. So anyhow, I teased
championship.
Yep, I teased you wrapping up the NASCAR season with Kyle Busch winning. I would imagine you're probably going to want to talk a little bit about how Jeff Gordon wrapped up the season, and Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano. You obviously go wherever you want to go with it, and we got I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, I had also teased something about just a couple of months away of being right back in it with Daytona again. So if you want to talk about anything, I guess one of the questions I'm probably going to ask you is what ideas is NASCAR already throwing around as we get ready to start or get ready to go into the off season, getting ready for next season.
All right.
So
that'll be ready to tackle it.
Yeah, that'd be one of the questions I'm going to throw out there.
One of the questions I'd like to ask, Steve, is basically with the way that this season ended, are they going to take a look at changing how it's set up? Because Kyle Busch was he missed the first third of the season.
Right.
With this whole chase thing.
Right.
But I got that Iowa game on right now, and looks like they're going to be. Looks like it's probably going to be them versus Party for the Big Ten championship. So that's going to be a great game to watch. So I think Iowa, their Final Four destiny is pretty much all sealed. So they just hang on and they do well against State. I think they'll be one of the Final Four teams. So which is kind of neat. So it kind of shows off a little bit of parity, which is what we need in sports nowadays. And,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I know Clemson, I don't think that they're going to last. I think Notre Dame, I honestly don't think that they'll be there. I know that they'll make a New Year's Six bowl for sure. But yeah, the Steelers on the outside looking right now, they're going to need a little help. But yeah, I think Iowa for sure will definitely be guaranteed a spot. So they can hang on, and I think it'll be them. I know Alabama's going to be tough, but of course they got to get through SEC play. Ohio State, I don't think so. Clemson, I don't know if they'll hang on. So I think the spectrum's going to be a lot different next week when we get to discussing it for sure.
Yeah, I think the way college football is going to work out, man, for me, it's this weekend is going to be so key. It really is.
Oh, definitely.
It's going to be so key. It's going to be ridiculous. So anyhow, hey, Steve, Detterman's in my ear. You're not going to be able to hear him, but he's in my ear, and he did ask me to ask you a question. I'm going to throw a question out there about the way NASCAR might be looking into changing the playoff season because, obviously you had Kyle Busch who won. He missed the first third of the season, and he turned around and ended up winning. So, I mean, obviously it kind of calls into question how good you really need to be at the beginning of the season to still be, relevant, towards the end and end up winning it. So, anyhow, we're coming back in 3 seconds here. Give me a second.
Okay.
And we are back. You're tuned into the Cheap Seats on XERS Radio Hour 2. Hour 2 brought to you by Rock Sports Bar and Grill. Of course, we're here in the Rock Studio live right now, and you can check us out anytime on Spreaker and iHeartRadio. And joining me, obviously live on Skype, is my boy, Steve Detterman. And then on the hotline, we have the one and only Josh Briggs getting ready to get us wrapped up on some NASCAR for the year and talk about what's going on even as we go into next year. Josh, how you doing, buddy? Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. You get any?
Did you get enough to eat yesterday? right?
Oh, you know it, dude. I got too much to eat. That's why I'm in the studio by myself today. Nobody wants to come anywhere near me.
I don't want to be close to you.
Yeah, well, you know what? Next week the road parties is going to begin because I start my new assignment. So, because we're going to be getting ready for the college football playoff and the conference championships. So, yeah, the break's not going to be lasting long. There's still a lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But one job is done. We now have a NASCAR champion, Kyle Busch. Why don't you just kind of gloss over how everything went down last week?
Well, last Sunday it was the Ford EcoBoost 400 at the Homestead Miami Speedway, and that was the final four championship race for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. And we had our final four, Kyle Busch, who, of course, missed the first races of the season after breaking his left leg and right foot in a savage crash at Daytona. And but Detterman, he hit it right on the head too, because he even said back in the summer, Kyle Busch, if he could get in the top 30 to be chase eligible, then he would be a force to be reckoned with. And doggone, Steve Detterman, cheers, buddy! you really called that one. And
right on the nose.
He was definitely not one to be let down either, because you had guys like Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick, and then Martin Truex Jr., who was definitely another strong force this season with his 15 straight top 10 finishes to start the season, and the win at Pocono, and then Jeff Gordon. You were kind of waiting on him to get started too with his swan song year, and to get in the Final Four. I think that was a big step for him, and of course, he has nothing to be ashamed of at all, and now he's going to move on to his new gig at Fox Sports as the commentator for the Sprint Cup races with Mike Joy and Larry McReynolds. But man, how about that? I mean, Kyle Busch Sunday night, he thoroughly spanked the field. He was up front pretty much all night when it counted the most. Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Jeff Gordon, they all battled handling issues all night, and they just could not keep up with the 18. And final restart came along, and Kevin Harvick, he had him. But just Kyle Busch, his team, Adam Stevens, his crew chief, they knew what to do all night long, and they kept up with the track, and they adjusted they made the proper adjustments. But yeah, so there you go. Kyle Busch is your champion for 2015, and you can view this in there's good ways to view this, and there's bad ways to view this. Of course, the bad ways, people are going to question, hey, he missed the first 11 races, why is he still champion? But, that's the way that they figured out the playoff system. And, and we all knew that when he was ready to come back, he was going to be ready to go. And I think the good side of things was while Kyle Busch was away, they were able to figure out what they were missing as a team and what they needed to do to perform. And, my gosh, with the streak of 3 straight wins in a row in July, winning Kentucky and winning at New Hampshire and winning the Brickyard 400 and, basically making themselves eligible for the chase. That's basically what they needed to do, and they did it. And I think that the 18 has now established themselves as the most dangerous team in NASCAR because they can rise up at any point in time. And wow. So I think Joe Gibbs Racing has put themselves on the map as a early favorite for 2016. So congratulations to Kurt Busch and all the team and the M&M's Krispy Camry. They've definitely proven themselves worthy, and we'll see what's going to happen next year come Daytona because, 90 days we're going to be having to talk Daytona 500 already. So
right.
But,
now you've actually touched on what my next question was going to be, and actually it was a question that Detterman had for you. I know you can't hear him right now, but one of the questions that Detterman had for you was, given the way Kyle Busch had missed the first third of the season and was capable to come back and not only get in the chase, but end up being in the top 4. And then, and I'm going to add to that, if you look at Joey Logano, 6 races, 22 top 5s, 28 top 10s, no DNFs, and he can't even make the top 4 at the end of at the end of the season. I mean, man, is that a travesty of justice? What's NASCAR? Is NASCAR going to look at that and go, wow, how did we have our best performing guy not even be involved in the last race in the championship speak? And we had a guy who didn't even show up until almost halfway through the season, and he ends up not only being in it, but taking it all.
Yeah, and, I think that shows one of the flaws, one of the loopholes in the NASCAR system was that Kyle Busch was granted the medical exemption waiver because once he got cleared to come back from his injuries at Daytona, then he would be eligible if he could make the top 30. Now, if you remember, back in 2013, Tony Stewart, after he came back from his injuries, he was granted the same thing. But, I think that just shows one of the flaws in the system. And I think that, if you miss a race or 2 or 11 like he did, I think that, that basically seals your fate for the season. I mean, you don't see pitchers missing half of their starts and winning the Cy Young Award. No, there's no way.
Right, and I don't want to take anything away from Kyle Busch because he still had 5 wins, he still had 16 top 10s and 12 top 5s. So I don't want to take anything away from him because when he was on the track, he was obviously very, very good. But at the same time, man, you look at that and you're like, 25 races versus 36 for everybody else in the top 7. The next person that didn't in the top 10 that didn't start all of his races was Kurt Busch, and then you go right back to, Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson rounding out the top 10 that had raced every race. And so it just kind of, it almost makes you look like, wow, maybe NASCAR needs to get a look at that over the course of the offseason and maybe, do something to adjust it or just, change the rules a little bit or open up the way the playoff seating is done or something, just kind of adjust for that and allow these guys that are doing so well at the beginning of the season, because the first thing I think of when I see this is why even bother racing the first third of the season? Save your cars, save your engines, and go at it about halfway through the season and make a strong run at the end.
And I think that just shows a flaw in how the bracket style system is because, that's all NASCAR's trying to do. They're trying to make it they're trying to make drama. And I'm sorry that you're not playing fair because, like you said, you got guys like Logano and Harvick and Kenseth. There was, with the whole fallout from the whole Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano thing at Martinsville, that basically cost Joey Logano a shot to make the Final Four because if that had never happened, I really can tell you that Joey Logano would have been this year's champion because that guy was driving like a man possessed. He was on fire. He won 3 races in a row, and he doggone near won Martinsville to make it 4 in a row. So, it shows a flaw in the system. I think that I really hope that they reconsider it next year. And like what you said, if you are chase eligible and you miss races, you should start in the back and or just simply go back to the way it was and the first 16 drivers they'll start up in the front and there's no bracketology involved. It's just who's ever the best out of the 16 at the end of the 10 races is the champion.
Right.
And
right.
I never saw any problems with that because it was still very competitive because look at 2011 when it was in that system. You had Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards in a virtual dead heat going into the last race. Tony Stewart needed to win the race to win the championship, and that's what he did.
Right,
he
and
won the race, but it was a tie.
Yeah, and every sport is going to have that 1 or 2 seasons where you're going to have a runaway winner. You're going to have your runaway winner in baseball where you have your one team that is so dominant it just doesn't look like anybody's got a shot at them. The NFL, same thing. In golf, God, we saw it with Tiger Woods for a decade or more. But now we have NASCAR just trying to level the playing field every week, and it was almost like it was almost like this weird labyrinth that these guys had to go through, and that every time they turned a corner, it was a whole new maze. And I did not like the way that this panned out. I really didn't. Now,
yeah, I didn't really like it either. No, I mean, it was not. It's going to bring a lot of questions to whether his championship was viewed as legit. And you brought up another valid point with golf. You don't see the FedEx Cup standings being bracket. It's not bracket style. You accumulate points during a certain amount of events, and whoever does that, whoever gets the most is the FedEx Cup winner. Don't
right.
see it being bracket style. Heck no.
Well, I've actually said a couple of weeks ago, and maybe even longer, that when you look at the way NASCAR has changed things up, just because of, and let's face it was because Jimmy Johnson won 6, championships in a row. The way NASCAR changed that, it's almost like the PGA seeing Tiger Woods at number 1 for a decade and saying, you know what, we need to change the way the point system works because we can't have one person dominate the sport. It's like, hello, if he's that good, he's that good. You just got to be okay with that.
I mean, look at UCLA for men's basketball. I mean, John Wooden had it all figured out. I mean, what was it? 88 straight regular season wins, 8 championships in a row, something like that.
Right, exactly. And then you go to the Yankees, who they more or less took 2 decades and controlled them in Major League Baseball. It's there's all kinds of scenarios in all other sports where the sport itself didn't change. They just waited for the other teams or the other players to get progressively better and catch whoever it was that's dominating. Now,
look at Brad Keselowski in 2012. I mean, Brad Keselowski figured out the 48 team and he ended up winning in 2012. But it's because the 2 team was on that year. So
right. Now, let's talk a little bit about Jeff Gordon. His swan song, obviously, was this race, and now he is done for all intent and purposes. You're not going to see him on a track anymore. Now it's going to be a matter of he's going to be talking about the guys that are on the track. And tell us a little bit about his new gig. What's his role going to be? And give me your best Jeff Gordon story.
Well, a lot of people that know me best know that I religiously booed Jeff Gordon. Back when he was figuring out everybody, and he was winning all the races and the championships, but everybody did. Everybody and their brother booed Jeff Gordon. However, I think it came to a matter of when, I want to say it was probably the early 2010s, back when people started growing tired of Jimmy Johnson, and he had roughed up Jeff Gordon after a race at Talladega. I think it was 2010. That's when I started gaining the respect for Jeff Gordon, and I just started telling people that were still on the hater wagon. I said, hey, look, guys, you need to respect the numbers that this guy's put up. I mean, he was the greatest of all time in the 90s. And, I mean, come on, look at it. 93 wins, 4 championships, 3 Daytona 500s, 5 Brickyards. That's something you're not going to see again for a long time. I mean, you can't argue with it. With a career that spanned 23 seasons, the kid's learned a lot. And, one thing that I learned about his relationship with his owner, Rick Hendrick, it's all about the people. It's all about the loyalty, the friendship, and that's the thing that I'll take away from it, is that, once you stick with something, you need to stick with what you know. Because, obviously they had something going there. I mean, Jeff could have went on and drove for different teams because, I don't know if you know this, but before Rick Hendrick offered him a contract, Jack Roush actually had a contract offer on the table, and he turned him down to go to Rick Hendrick. So, Hendrick Motorsports is all about the people. They always have and always will be. So, and I know Jeff next year and beyond, he is decided he was going to maintain leadership role at Hendrick Motorsports, working in the offices. And I think that's a great fit for him because a lot of people can lean on him for advice, especially younger drivers, like the gentleman who's going to be taking over for him next year, Chase Elliott. He's going to be in the number 24 Napa Auto Parts Chevy starting in 2016. And I think that that's going to be a great tool for Chase to have. And, and then with Jeff going to the booth in Fox Sports next year, with his wisdom and everything, I think he can bring a lot of new fans on board, with fresh knowledge of the sport and what the cars do and how the track handles. And I tell you, if you got a chance to watch the Xfinity races that he was in the booth for, he brings a lot of energy. And doggone, I cannot wait until Speed Weeks when he's in the booth because I'm going to be glued to the TV just to hear what he has to say, just to hear that energy. And he's a great role model for me, what I can bring to you guys on the cheat sheet because, in the sportscast, it's all about the energy, the heart, the knowledge. And, you've made a big impact on me. So
now
that's about what I learned.
Now, give me the as you look up and down the NASCAR roster here, this year, last year, some of the young up and coming guys. Give me a guy who's not really anymore about 3, 4, 5 years old into the league, and he looks to you like he's going to be the next Jeff Gordon. Is there one out there? Do you see one out there? And if so, who is it?
I definitely do. I don't know. Kyle Larson is one that has stricken me for the past couple of years with how he's been as a driver. He's been on the cusp of making the chase for the past 2 seasons that he's been a Sprint Cup driver. He definitely emulates Jeff Gordon. He looks up to him big time. And he's going to be a multi-race winner here. Once he hits that stride, watch out. I just love the way he pushes the car to the limit. He can get all he needs out of the race car. That's what Jeff Gordon did. And, I think one guy that you need to watch out for next year is the 42 team, and Kyle Larson. Because I think after what he went through at Homestead, nearly pulling off the weekend sweep, he won the Xfinity Series race, and then he finished third in the Sprint Cup race. I think I would look out for Kyle Larson next year to make some noise in this chase. So, he's going to have a new crew chief, Chad Johnson, taking over for Chris Roy, and I think it's going to bring a lot of attention to Chip Ganassi Racing because that Target team is going to be ready to go. They're not going to be fooling around. So
Now we are now officially just about 3 months away from Daytona. Now I know this season just ended, but we're already looking at Daytona. We're all the drivers, all the teams are looking at engineering their cars. Do we know of any early major changes that are already going to be happening as of next year that we expect to see rolling into Daytona?
Well, here's what's going to happen next year. The highly publicized low downforce package with the what I would like to call the liquor bill on the rear spoiler, that's going to be at every race except for Daytona and Talladega because
now what does that do? What does that do?
It made great side-by-side racing. And it's going to be lower horsepower, which is definitely going to create more passing, more action. Mm-hmm. And I think the margin of victory is going to be a lot smaller. So I think you're going to see more last lap passes, I'm hoping. The qualifying speeds are going to be a lot tighter. So I think next year looks to be a very competitive season. But, I'm with you, though, with the playoff system. I hope that they can look over that, tweak it. And as far as the schedule goes for next year, there really is no changes on the schedule. Everything will be stat quo. It's going to be the same chase races next season. I'm ready to go for the 58th running of the Daytona 500, and February 21st will not be far away. So
awesome.
But don't you worry because there's going to be a lot to cover while NASCAR is in the barn sleeping for the winter. So, because I know we got a lot of college football coming up, but just remember, January will be coming up, and I'll be, for one, marking my 1-year anniversary on the cheat sheet.
Yes,
and
you will.
I will give you my early season scouting report, my top 16 teams on who I look to see shining in Homestead in 2016. So
sounds good.
I got a lot to look forward to.
Well, sounds good. We'll get back to that Iowa game, and who's in the lead right now? What's the
Iowa won.
Iowa's what?
That?
Iowa won.
Oh, Iowa ended up winning that game?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
28-20.
Nebraska Cornhuskers, so they are now 12-0. They have clinched their spot in the Big Ten championship game. So if Michigan State can win their game, then it looks to be a Hawkeye-Spartans matchup for next Saturday night down at Lucas Oil Stadium. So
man.
Just know that we got a lot of great conference championships coming up.
Yeah, it sounds like I know what we'll be talking about next week, Josh.
That's right, because I got a new assignment starting next week, and
yes,
I can't wait to dive into it with you boys.
Sounds good. All right, man. Well, go enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Happy holidays.
All right, brother. And that was Josh Briggs with us. Steve-O?
Yes.
What do you think, man? Do you think NASCAR needs to change things up in the way the playoff system works?
I really do after watching this season, and I talked with Josh quite a bit last couple of weeks that I was there, and it was just it's a shame when you watch a kid like Joey Logano dominate as much as he did during the whole season, get down to a point where you have a guy that actually goes and takes him out of the race and takes him out of the competition, not make it to the Final Four, and I think that's what they got to look at. And they also got to take a look at, yes, I did predict Kyle Busch would take this, but how he got in and how it was able to get in after missing a third of the season, that's another flaw that I think that NASCAR really needs to take a look at as they head into next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think if anybody can fill Jeff Gordon's shoes, who do you think it would be?
Boy, and I think that's where you're going to walk into, and these are names that have been out there, like Logano, Harvick, Kenseth. I mean, they've been on the brink of being dominating, but I think those are the guys that I think are going to be the people that are going to actually start actually being the dominator and being the guy like Jeff Gordon, where, week in, week out, these are the guys that are going to win, and they're going to start putting on quite a few ones.
All right, brother. Well, that's going to lead us to a break. We have got to get back at it. And on the other side, should have Todd Burlage coming up. We're going to talk a little Notre Dame, Stanford, and how he thinks the playoffs are going to shake out after next week. And that's going to bring us to the last half an hour. It's been a weird one.
It's been a good one.
Yeah, it has, but man, my head hasn't been here. I don't know what's going on. I'll tell you. Well, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why on the other side of the break. You're listening to Cheap Seats on XCRS Radio. Hold on one second.
No problem. Gonna go pee again.
All right.
I got a big gin and tonic hit me right now. That's one nice thing about being home.
Exactly what you're looking for. James Rowe from MDG Music Discussion Group and myself have teamed up to bring you local, regional, and national bands, news, reviews, and of course, shenanigans. Join us every Monday night, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, for MDG's All Access Pass. Only on the X, xcrsradio.com.
Have you heard those two wacky guys, Chris and Ginn, on the Life is Art Also show? They share their favorite songs and their future favorites, too. They have live interviews with authors, comedians, artists, and musicians, and lots more. They also have a Word of the Week with Mad Dog Ho, the official lexicographer of Internet Radio. Tune in every Thursday, 6 p.m. on xcrs.com.
Kickstart Studios, audio recording services for all your recording needs. Songwriters, comedians, band demos, commercials, voiceovers, narration, sound effects, background music. Give us a call, 574-274-8046. Kickstart Studios at Comcast.net or like us on Facebook at Kickstart Studios.
Life is meant to be savored. If you find the reason.
Did you get Mr. Burlage yet?
Not yet. Hold on just a second.
No problem.
To the high-end tavern fare, Morgan's and the Little Black Dog Tavern give you the chance to savor every day. Stop in and savor your day with your choice of a wide variety of drinks, from a classic martini to the best beers from local breweries. Savor your day on the patio, or come in and enjoy a glass of wine with some of our mouth-watering entrees.
Oh, yep. All right.
Building in the Water Center in downtown Mishawaka, Indiana. Call 574-807-0101 for
You get it?
Yeah.
All right.
I said, how about 10 minutes?
He said, how about 10 minutes?
No, I said, how about 10 minutes?
Okay.
Then give us a second.
Okay, one thing I want you to ask him is ask him about this. I mean, Notre Dame's played up and down to their competition. Where it gets them the W's, it really loses them on the style points.
Right.
And that's what's killing them in this whole poll.
Right.
Wow. Oregon's beaten Oregon State 52-42.
Jeez.
So you talk about a game.
Wow.
Iowa wins 28-20. Armstrong throws 4 interceptions.
All right, we're coming back. Hold on.
Yep.
And we're back to Cheap Seats on XCRS Radio, brought to you by Rocks Sports Bar and Grill. Looks like we're going to have Todd Burlage here in about 20 minutes, so it's going to be coming right up on the end of the show. We'll have Todd come in, do the Notre Dame Stanford game. And, man, I'm going to tell you what. This has been just a crazy last couple of weeks for me, obviously. And,
yes.
And, for those of you who don't know, we'll just go ahead and I'll just, lay it right out there. We lost my father in the last, it was like 2 weeks ago. And, so obviously I haven't been, doing much of anything, and my head has just not been screwed on straight. So this week it was like, okay, back to normal this week. And we're gonna do the show. We're gonna do everything. Last week I was kind of prepared to do it, and then I was like, not really. And it's kind of one of those things you just kind of got to be ready when you're ready. And luckily, everybody at XCRS Radio, everybody at Federated Media, everyone everywhere has been really cool about everything, and I appreciate all of that. But yeah, so I was like, all right, well, let's get back to normal. We're going to start with Thanksgiving. Then we're going to do Black Friday, and we're going to do everything, like normal, like we normally would.
Yep, get right back on the wagon.
Right. And man, everything seemed cool. Yesterday was okay. And then today it was like, I don't know. I just woke up this morning and we didn't go out and do the Black Friday early shopping thing like some people do. We used to do it. Do it. And now with kids, we don't really do that anymore. First of all, I don't want to drag the kids out there that early in the morning. Second of all, I really don't need the kids witnessing me beating an old lady in the head with a toaster. I really don't, because I get vicious, man. I get bad. I get bad. I get real vicious when I'm out there. I'm like, we're not out there going after the deals.
Right.
I'm not out there going after the deals or anything. I'm out there just trying to survive.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, it's like being in the middle of a war zone, and I mean that in just about every sense of the term, because you don't know if somebody's just gonna, finally say forget it and just break out newsy and start, melting the place down. There are bad attitudes out there. There really are. It's pretty rough, but we're in the mall. I know, God help us. We're in the mall, and man, I'm gonna tell you what, the the massive swarm of humanity that was in that mall. I mean, it was just wall to wall people, and we're walking back and forth. And apparently today, my oldest daughter decided she was going to have diabetes all day or something because she had to pee like every 5 minutes. I was like, "What is your deal?
Was she setting me up or something or what?"
I don't know. It's like, what have you been doing? You've been drinking coffee all day? Seriously? So I mean, it seemed like every 5 minutes we had to stop and find a bathroom. So it wasn't enough that we had to move through these crowds, but we had to stop and we had to, find a bathroom.
Yeah.
Get through the crowds to get to the bathroom. And of course, every woman's bathroom that you go to, the miles or the line's like 4 miles long. And it's moving slower than traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike. So, here I am like, okay, well, I've got to bring you into the guys' bathroom. And of course, she's walking in asking questions about, hey, what are these for? And it's like, honey,
they're for.
Yeah. Well, you can find that out later on in life. But, but it's, it was one of those crazy things that is like at the end of it all, I was just mentally shot, dude. I had nothing left. I was just ready to call it a day.
Oh, no, I understand.
And so then I was like, well, okay, well, now it's time to come out and do the show. First of all, everybody knows that everybody listens to this probably knows that anyhow, I do a local radio bit too.
Right.
And, I tuned to that station and the show that I'm on, I thought they were live, because I heard the host and I heard him, talking and stuff like that. And I granted only listened to it for about a 5-minute trip in the car. And so I was like, oh God, I've got to do a segment on there. I've got to go home. I got to hurry up and I got to get ready. And so I'm buzzing through information, because I've got to break down 2 games. And I text him and I'm like, hey, you ready to do this? He's like, I'm not on the air today. I'm like, but I heard a recorded show, and I put my head in my hands. I was like, oh dear God. And so I was like, okay, well, I just wasted all that time doing that. And then my head was buzzing, and I was like, okay, well, now it's time to drop the kids off at the sitters because I've got to get over here. Right. And so I finally made it here. And as I made it here, obviously, you and I were having a conversation about Skype. So we're going back and forth. So the whole way here, I'm thinking about Skype, and I finally get in, I sit down, I fire everything up, and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea where I'm even going to start.
Well, it's been that. I mean, you know me, I work inside of Walmart.
Sure.
And you walk in on Black Friday, and of course we open up early to support the Black Friday, which is, there is no Black Friday anymore. It's all Thursday. Everything is Thursday
Absolutely.
night. That's just the way it is. But yet, we are we're the slaves to getting up and being in there at, I'm up at, 4:00 in there by 5:30, and it's just like, good God, unbelievable. I left my retail days a long time ago. But it's like, you and I this week, I mean, we talked, our show prep was basically you and I talking in front of my workplace for half an hour, if that, talking about different things that are going on in the sporting world. So we're going, yep, okay, we're ready for the show now.
Yeah.
And, we still had, we said some the pro games to go through. We haven't even touched on NCAA basketball kicking off, or we haven't touched on the NBA or the NHL.
No.
There's a lot of different things out there, but there's so much going on with this college football and everything else. And you and I just, we have our own opinions. We go back and forth, and we get to today, and it's like, well, I'm done at 4. I live probably about, what would you say, about an hour and 15 minutes from the studio?
Yeah, probably about an hour.
So it's like, okay, if I have to sit, around for 2 hours, I'm going to go home, and it's going to be a Skype thing, and that's that's where we got to this of you being there and me being here, that we were able to do that, and thank God for technology that we're able to do that. But it's just like, okay, your brain is dead, my brain is fried because it's been up since 4:00 this morning. And but it's been fun, and I think it's been a hell of a show, and there's a lot of good things that we've touched upon, and I think it was great to be able to, Briggsy brought on a lot of good things about the NASCAR that we're looking forward to this new season that starts within 2.5 months.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
You talk about a short off season for hockey and for basketball. How about NASCAR?
Oh, I know, right? That's crazy.
Or even golf. Golf, they just continue to go. They haven't even stopped, I don't think, have they?
No,
I mean,
does golf even stop?
No, I think they're still playing tournaments. I think you stop when you say, well, you know what, I'm going to take a month off. And you decide to take a month off, and that's your stop. But it continues to go week after week. So, but, we've got a good game tonight that's coming up, and you and I haven't really talked about that. That's TCU and Baylor.
Right.
And that is something that's just going to be unbelievable. I mean, you talk about setting up everything in the SEC. Boy, I tell you, or SWC, that's going to be unbelievable. Between that game and Oklahoma State, you couldn't look for a better finish in that conference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what's really so critical here is it may actually play out that Oklahoma needs this win to be in the playoffs. Period. I mean, and it's almost like a win and you're in situation for them. Oklahoma State, the best thing they could do is beat Oklahoma. It's almost like a revenge game for them. If they beat Oklahoma, they may not go to the playoffs because of it, but Oklahoma is almost assured not to go to the playoffs because of it.
Right, and I agree with you. I think if Oklahoma State wins, Oklahoma's not going to go to the playoffs, but neither is Oklahoma State.
No.
Now, Baylor's ranked number 7. So, I mean, they're just a little bit on the outside there. So
yeah, I think they're still going to be on the outside looking in, though, because of it. Regardless if they win or not, I think they'll still be on the outside looking in. I don't think that there's a scenario where Baylor ends up being in the top 4.
This is what's nice, like being home. My son just texted me. TCU and Baylor are currently in a rain delay.
Oh wow, really? A rain delay?
Wow, yeah.
How do you have a rain delay in football?
Well,
aren't you geared to kind of play in the rain?
The only thing I think about is lightning.
Yeah, lightning.
It's coming down so hard, it's just flooding.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. If it's a flood, that's not really safe conditions.
No, he said lightning.
Oh, lightning. Okay, then I get it. Then
I guess someone watching the game. Give me the little stats off to the side there.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you got your little stat boy.
Well, he's that Michigan grad. I mean, it was last week we were sitting there talking, and
we ought to hire him and call him stat boy.
Well,
that would be awesome. Yeah, there we go.
I think we could take him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Last week we're sitting there, we're watching the Michigan State Ohio State game, and Michigan's playing Penn State, and Michigan of course took care of Penn State, and he goes, I said, well, now we got one game. I said, I hate Ohio State so much. I said, I just want Michigan State to win. He goes, no, we don't want that.
Yeah, you actually want Ohio State to win,
so Michigan can go on to the Big Ten championship game.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you know what? I dislike Ohio State that much. I just like to see them lose. I don't care who it is to. And as soon as that game was over, he sent me the thing. He goes, Ohio State, you had one thing that you had to do today.
Yeah, you had one job, Ohio State.
You had one job and you didn't do it.
Hey, real quick, while we're waiting on Todd, let me move into this real quick. Did you see? I just want to jump over to this. I know it's way off track. I'm going to do a little NBA real quick.
I'm ready to go.
Did you see Golden State? 16-0 holds the record. Have you looked ahead at their schedule at all?
No, I haven't. I don't think they're playing anybody, are they?
They have Phoenix and Utah coming up. All right, and then they're on an East Coast swing for 7 games. And they don't play anybody. I mean, we're not talking, they don't play Atlanta, they don't play Chicago, they don't play Cleveland. They don't play anybody that's a real threat to the way they play.
So in other words, they could end up going, starting out 25-0?
If they beat Utah, which is really the only real threat. I don't think Phoenix doesn't have enough, they don't have enough firepower to get up and down against them. But if they beat Utah, which is about the only real threat that they got,
and Utah's just old, aren't they?
Yeah, they're they're getting up there. But if they beat Utah, could you see a possibility that the Golden State Warriors could go into Christmas Day 26-0?
Would that be something?
Playing the Cleveland Cavaliers on national television.
Wow, that would be,
Dude, you could barely know what the NBA stands for, and you'd want to watch that game.
I mean, what was it? What's the record now? 71-11 or 70-12?
The record, the '96 Chicago Bulls had the record of 71 and 9.
71 and 9.
Or no, 71 and 10. I'm sorry.
71-11. They played 82 games.
Or yeah, 71-11.
71-11.
Yeah.
I think that falls this year because the way, barring,
it sure could. It's too early to say that. It's too early to say that because you don't know if Golden State is just peaking right now because teams can peak at the very beginning of the season.
But barring any injuries, I see Golden State having just unbelievable. This reminds me a couple years ago when the Blackhawks in the NHL started out with 26 straight games where they didn't lose a game. They had a couple ties, and so forth, but they had 25 or 26 games without a loss.
Right.
And they end up winning the Stanley Cup. This reminds me of Golden State this year. This is the start that they're getting off to. And it's unheard of right now, especially in the NBA. This is unbelievable.
Here's the only reason why I don't have a ton of faith in the idea of them breaking the 96 Bulls record. And here's why. They are a shooting team.
Yes.
They are not they don't have a big game presence. They don't have a low post presence. If you can get physical with their shooters and you have the ability to score quickly and score fast, you can take them right out of their game.
But here's the thing, Steve.
The only problem is there are only a few teams in the NBA that can physically do that.
And here's the thing I was getting to is that the best teams in the NBA are in the West. And right now they're 16-0 against the West.
This is true, but
that's not too damn bad.
This is true, but at the same time, an NBA team, a lot of them, it's a lot of beating the best teams is all about game plan.
It is.
Game plan takes tape.
How far were they down to the Clippers? 21, wasn't it?
Yes. And
that was is that in the third or the fourth?
That was in the third.
Okay. And they came back and won that game.
Yeah, I know.
So, you talk about shooting. The shooting could be off for a little bit, but once they get on,
right,
it's lights out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. It's quite impressive.
Yes, it is.
However, it's still one of those things that the fact that they don't have a real big low post presence. They don't have that. They don't have that big man that scares you.
But isn't that the way the NBA is going right now? Is we're seeing more small teams that are shooting because they're really going after the three and really going after the outside shot?
Well, you're seeing it start to transition to that. But if you notice, most of the championship teams, they're championship teams because they're versatile. They can play that defensive game, that low scoring defensive game just as well as playing that high scoring barn burner. It doesn't matter what kind of game they have to play, the team can adjust to it. That was why the San Antonio Spurs were so good for so long. That's why teams like the Cavaliers and the Bulls are always in it. You have that versatility that you can switch up and play however you need to play.
I think we're starting to see that switch. We're starting to see where these teams are going smaller. The Bulls have gone smaller. Noah's not even starting right now.
Well, Noah's not starting right now because you have two or three other forwards that are that much better. But
they're smaller and they shoot from the outside.
Right. That's one example. It's not a great example because Noah is a terrible shooter.
Well, he is, but he was also your defensive player of the year 2 years ago, and also one of the leading rebounders in the year for every year for the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but when you're
playing.
Yeah, but when you're a team like Chicago and you need to score points, you need to be able to throw up a lot of points because.
But why do you need to score points? Is because the other teams are going smaller and scoring. Look at what Indiana's done. They've moved Paul George to the 4, and Paul George is 6'5", 6'6". They moved him to the power forward. Why? Because he's a power forward? No, because he can take that guy out and shoot in front of him. Face him up and shoot him And that's what's taking Indiana to where they're at. And talk about a great comeback. Paul George is a comeback of the year right now for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you looked at the way that whole team finished,
yes.
not just he, but the whole team, their locker room fell apart and they had no faith left in their coach. I mean, they looked horrible. And now he's come back and he's looked fantastic at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, I do have, my hat's off to him. I think, it's resilient is not even the best word to describe it. It's too strong just for resilient.
No, it's a hell of a story, and it's one of those ones you just got to stand up and cheer.
Absolutely. So we are let's see if we can't get Todd on the line here in just a little bit.
Yeah, 'cause, we need to ask. I want when you get a chance to ask him about I think Notre Dame this year has played up and played down to their opponents. They played up for the big games. They played down against the guys they're supposed to beat. They're still pulling in the W's, but what it does is it really hurts their eye test, and that's the thing that hurt them this last week and dropped them from 4 to 6. They beat Boston College, but they didn't beat them as well as people thought they should have beat them. And when does a W, not count as good as a blowout?
Right. Yeah, those are very good questions. That's like the first thing that you think of when you look at the way that this shook down. It's like, man,
if you take a look at their schedule from top to bottom is a tough schedule. Whether you win by 5 or win by 40, what's the difference? You won, and that's a tough. The scheduling intent of that schedule is tremendous.
Right.
And there were not too many people that at the beginning of the season said, "Hey, this team is going to go 10-1 into that final game against Stanford," especially after they lost Malik Zaire after week 1 or into week 2.
Yeah. No, nobody, and then
lost Folston week 1 and Zaire week 2.
Yeah, it was week 2 we lost Zaire and everybody thought, no, Notre Dame's done. There's no way.
You had no running back. You had no good running back because Bryant had already left. Folston's injured. Now you're going to a guy that wasn't even a running back. He was a wide receiver.
Right.
And you're going to him and a bunch of freshmen, and then you lose your number 1 quarterback, and you're going to the other freshman, the redshirt freshman in Kaiser.
Right. And obviously after that, the rest is just this miracle that everybody's looking at going, wow, this is actually happening. They couldn't believe it. So anyhow, all right. So Burlage looks like he's going to be ready here in just a little bit. We're going to hit a break, and when we come back, we're going to be wrapping this thing up with Todd Burlage right here on the Cheap Seats on XERS Radio.
Have you heard those two wacky guys, Chris and Ginn, on the Life is Art Also show?
Good.
They share their favorite songs and their future.
Good way to lose about 23 minutes there. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, hey.
Great job, man.
I still know what I'm doing.
Well, I think we both cover each other well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to getting back in the studio next week.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to having you back.
I'm looking forward to being there. Trust me.
Yo.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, homie?
Not much, man.
Hey, sports fans, this is Steve Willis, host of the Chief.
I know.
New additions to the great XERS lineup. Tune in Friday nights at 6 p.m. right here for commentary and insight you won't get anywhere else.
No, it's all good, dude. I mean, it's pretty much just I'm throwing you up there for get your name out there to my guys. So it's just I'm just being greedy right now, and I got nothing left. I'm gassed, man. After losing my dad 2 weeks ago, this is my first show back, and I've got.
I had no idea. No, I'm sorry to hear that, my friend.
No, it's all good, man. Just that's why I haven't. That's why you haven't heard hide or hair on me the last couple of weeks. So I'm just,
I've just been so. This is my last nightmare week. I hate this week every year.
Get him in the studio.
On Thanksgiving week, but my workload doesn't slow down, and then I have to peel the time off to.
Right.
I take my computer to my parents' house.
Well, the good news is we got 10 minutes. That's all we got to do is 10 minutes. So
and we need to get you in the studio.
We're gonna bullshit some Notre Dame for about 10 minutes, and we're gonna be out.
No, that's fine. I hope my phone holds Ruth, you'll know what happened. I'm 5% charged.
Gotcha.
So we'll figure it out.
Well, we'll hook it up. All right, we're coming back. 3. And we're back, about to wrap it up here on the Cheap Seats right here on XERS Radio. Of course, remember, if you missed any of the show, you want to check it out on Spreaker or iHeartRadio. It is on demand. Just go to Spreaker.com or iHeartRadio.com, or hell, if you're on your phone,
go to
iPhone.
Facebook.
Yeah, go to Facebook too. iPhone, your Google Play Store. You can download both the apps, the Spreaker app and the iHeartRadio app. Anyhow, right now, as promised, got Mr. Todd Burlage on the line, and he's hanging in there with about 5% battery, so we're going to keep him on as long as he can. What up, Todd? What's up, Todd?
You're hanging on personally with about 5% battery. I'm hanging on with about 5% profile. Yeah, it's always a crazy week, man, trying to
and I got 5% brain.
How are you, Steve? Sorry to hear about your father,
Man, I appreciate it, and we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there. You know, Thanksgiving was good. Black Friday was good. We're ready to get into the weekend, and that's actually why we brought you on, brother. We were talking earlier, Notre Dame, Stanford, and it's looking like it's going to be, you know, with the way the college football committee just kind of shook everything down this week.
Right.
It really looks like Notre Dame is just going to have to beat the crap out of Stanford and hope like hell that Oklahoma State takes care of business against Oklahoma just to have a shot at getting into this playoffs.
So it probably shakes out that way. I agree. Unfortunately, I agree. I don't understand. I'm starting to think a little bit that this playoff committee just likes to add drama. You know, it's kind of like made for TV crap. You know, it's ESPN. Big show stuff. Let's shake it up every week. Let's shake it up every week. They did it last year too, in some respects. But you know, I mean, what did Oklahoma do last week that was so flippin' amazing at home? Where TCU decided to go for a 2-point conversion at the end to win at Oklahoma. Where Notre Dame obviously struggled, 5 turnovers, looked like crap against Boston College. I get that, 1913 win or 1916, whatever the hell it was. And, you know, but Oklahoma comes out of there with a 1-point win at home, where, again, TCU went for 2 points to win the game, and yet Oklahoma jumps from 7 to 3. So I guess I don't understand. So the explanation that was given by Chairman Long was that, well, you know what, Oklahoma had a bunch of injuries in that game, and they survived it. And I'm thinking, are you serious? Notre Dame has dealt with injuries, including in the Boston College game, 2 severe injuries. They've survived this entire year overcoming injuries and have done a great job in doing so. One of the best jobs I've ever seen a coaching staff do, seriously, in recent memory, overcoming injuries. But yet, oh no, we're going to celebrate Oklahoma's crappy win with a 4-place jump for them. Meanwhile, we're going to knock Notre Dame out of the top 4. I just didn't get it, Steve.
No, it made absolutely no sense to me either when I saw it. Now it is what it is, and we're looking at Stanford. And the thing that kind of makes me have a glimmer of hope for Stanford is a question that Steve Detterman wanted me to relay to you, and that was it looks like when you're looking at a team the magnitude of Stanford, which is really the best offense Notre Dame has seen in a month, a offensive line and defensive line that plays just as well as Notre Dame. They're very big, fast, powerful, strong. It is a team that you would think, given the history of this season, Notre Dame would get up for and be ready to really play, because it seems like they've kind of played down to their opponents and up to their opponents at times this year, and it just kind of feels like that. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it does, Steve. I think you make a great point. That's actually what's hurting Notre Dame is, they've not been closing games strong, and I don't, I've never been a big fan of style. Points matter. I sort of look at the body of work. I think Notre Dame's schedule stands up to anybody in the country's. I really do. Although it took a hit today with both Navy and Pitt getting beat, so that didn't help Notre Dame's profile much today. But if you can't get up for Stanford, the chance to get into the playoff, then then you got a problem. But Stanford's going to be ready to go too. It's kind of an interesting dynamic here. This is David Shaw's fifth year coaching Stanford. He's taken Stanford to 3 BCS games, whatever you want to call them now. But yeah, three high-profile bowl games. Two of those times he beat Notre Dame in November to get there. The other time in 2012, actually, that was Stanford's only loss, if I'm not mistaken. That was the year Notre Dame went to the national championship game. This game has meant so much between these two teams, and it's really been kind of catapult to great things. Boy, it doesn't set up any more than that this year, because I think the winner goes to one of the New Year's Six bowl games. I guess that's somewhat assuming Stanford wins the Pac-12 championship game. I'm not sure the loser does. But yeah, it's going to be another great matchup, a classic matchup. I'm not seeing Notre Dame. You're right, though. Notre Dame needs to rout this team if it can, but hell, Notre Dame's a 4-point underdog in this game, so I'm not expecting big routes here. But yeah, that Oklahoma dynamic is really, really shaking things up. But who knows? This committee, man, they change things around so much. Iowa had a big win today, obviously, and a lot goes on. I'm kind of rambling here, but as from Notre Dame's standpoint, yeah, they absolutely they need style points in this win, it would appear, which is a shame because I think style points are overrated.
Now I'm going to have you throw your conspiracy theorist hat on for a second. And something that we were talking about earlier in the show, does this almost feel like Notre Dame is being penalized for not having that final conference championship game, or at least not being in a conference?
I would want to say yes, Steve, but why haven't you penalized Notre Dame up to this point? Because that's the case. I mean, Notre Dame was 5 in the opening poll, which we were all pleasantly surprised about. You're Notre Dame follower. And then they were 4 2 weeks in a row. So I didn't really see that pattern developing until after they looked like crap against Boston College. So I don't know. That's a popular theory going around out there, and perhaps there's some credit to it. But you would have thought maybe the committee would have waited until the last week of its polling to sort of send that message to Notre Dame. I don't know what difference now all of a sudden. Okay, well, you're not going to play. When you're going into your 12th game, your final game of the regular season of your season, why would you send that message now? I think that would be a message that would be delivered once they put the final poll out. I don't know that would come up now, Steve. That's why I'm not really quite buying into that conspiracy theory.
Gotcha. Now, looking into, or I should say, looking beyond this game, and we'll throw a little devil's advocate out there. Say Notre Dame does come away with a pretty big win against Stanford. We have Oklahoma. We'll even say Oklahoma loses to Oklahoma State. Can you think of anything just right off of the top of your head that would deny Notre Dame a number, at least a spot in the top 4?
In that scenario, no, I really can't, Steve. I suppose with Iowa winning today, you might get it could get a little dicey if maybe they play a close game with Michigan State. But I'm having trouble finding a scenario where Big Ten gets 2 in. Mm-hmm. So I think from that standpoint, that wouldn't be the case. I don't know. I mean, would all of a sudden Oklahoma State slip back into the conversation? Perhaps. I wouldn't think so, since Oklahoma State is ranked behind Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a powerful game here. But in all seriousness, Oklahoma State, at least according to the rankings, is playing a much tougher opponent in Oklahoma than what Notre Dame is in Stanford. So now all of a sudden it's Oklahoma State because they beat Oklahoma.
Right.
A one-loss team there, the Cowboys. Do they re-enter the conversation?
Such a
I'm trying to think of maybe if there's a scenario where Florida would beat Alabama in the SEC game, the SEC championship game, where perhaps even the committee is so in love with Alabama, maybe even a 3-loss Alabama team, a 2-loss Alabama team, perhaps they go in as the overall number 1 seed because it is Alabama after all. I mean, we certainly know that. And the SEC is the end all be all, even though the entire conference has 0 quarterbacks. That being said, I mean, that's another. I think that's another possibility. I think Florida would earn a spot by beating Alabama. But I think that would probably put Alabama. If Alabama lost the SEC championship game, my assumption is Alabama would move up to the number 1 overall seed, and then Florida would be number 2.
That would be. It's such a convoluted process that I'm just gonna.
It really is.
Yeah, I'm gonna resign to say I'm sure you're right. I just can't. I don't know how, but I'm sure you're right.
I mean, it is. It's okay. I guess it's better than the old one. I just think if we got the 8 seed, we could really sort this out. And I know you'll start bitching about, or not you personally, but people will start bitching about 9 and 10. But
it's actually funny.
At that point, who really cares? You know what I mean?
It's actually funny because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Do you think we should finally look at an 8-team playoff? I know we're only doing this. This is year 2. But do you think after year 3, when we're open to putting these things on the table, these options to expand the playoff, should they jump all over this? Because I really think you get those 8 teams together, and now you've really set the bar for what cuts the mustard and what doesn't. Because really, when you get to 4, 5, and 6. Those teams are so interchangeable sometimes.
They really are.
It's hard to really say who's definitively the best, number 4 team.
Yeah, how do you differentiate between an Iowa, a Notre Dame, a Michigan State, and Notre Dame?
Sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, so throw all these teams in the mix. And what's funny, Steve, and you bring up a great point, is through this entire process, the committee has said. They've said it a number of times. We were very clear on 1 through 4. We had to spend hours on 5 through 8. We had to spend hours on 5 through 8.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Right
Absolutely.
there is what suggests to me that indeed, that's the way this needs to go. I mean, and if you want to turn it into a tournament, you really can. Okay, all your big Power 5 conference winners go. Your 5 of them.
Right.
I think it would be a bad idea to have the lesser 5 winner, the American Conference. Also, you can get a bid. And then you're left with a couple spots to play with. I don't know, however they want to set it up.
Yeah, anything's better than 4 teams and then have that number 4.
16. I sure as hell don't want to see 16.
No.
I think 8 is such a nice round number.
Yeah.
And I just think it works. I really do. You wonder, Steve, let me throw one back at you. I'm curious if, because of the way the Big 12 got kind of hosed down last year with an undefeated Baylor and an undefeated TCU, one loss TCU being left out of the equation, I think that really hurts Notre Dame this year. I can't imagine with Big 12 representation on this committee.
Yeah, you almost think.
Go down that road again.
Right, you almost think that they're trying to play a little catch up for last year, kind of like almost like a makeup call.
Into that, or am I just being a player? What do you?
Actually, no. I've heard that kind of being thrown around, and really, you can never doubt anything when you have a bunch of people that have skin in the game, which is one of the reasons why I said the way this committee was built, you should not have anybody that has any ties to a Power 5 conference outside of maybe being a former alum at some point. But definitely no commissioners, no athletic directors, certainly no coaches or anything like that. And that really that can sway things. And if it doesn't sway things, it at least fuels a conversation. And you don't want that. You don't want controversy. You really don't. I mean, you're going to have inherent controversy anyway when you're talking about a committee and polls and stuff like that. So no matter what you do, you're going to have controversy. The last thing you want to do is fuel it by having people making decisions that, could possibly have some sort of skin in the game.
Well, when Long came out and he was asked Tuesday after ranking, okay, well, Notre Dame, obviously this has come up a trillion times, but Notre Dame throttled Texas and Oklahoma, obviously lost Texas. And he just dismissed Long. He said, well, Oklahoma's played so well that we just don't consider that loss. And meanwhile, I'm thinking Notre Dame's loss is at the number one team in the country by 2 points. They played like crap, I get that. But they still lost by 2 points to the number one team in the country. Texas has, 3-4 beaters, I think.
In a hurricane, mind you. So.
Right. And they always say they factor in weather and they factor in injuries. I don't necessarily like that, Steve, to be honest with you. I think when you're evaluating a football team, you're evaluating the whole team. I was very disappointed when he said, well, Oklahoma had to fight through a bunch of injuries in this game last week against TCU, and they were able to do it, or just hold on, basically. So we're going to excuse the crummy second half that they played because they had a bunch of injuries. I think, aren't you evaluating the entire football team and not just the first stringers? That was probably what really didn't sit well with me.
Right. No, not me either. And I really don't like the way that they're doing their selections right now. And what's worse is they're coming up with the lamest excuses as to what they're doing. But anyhow, all right. Well, real quick before we let you go, quick prediction. This weekend's game, Notre Dame, Stanford at Stanford. Notre Dame needs to win big. What do you think?
Yeah, well, when we talk next week, Notre Dame will be 10-2. So all that rant, I think Stanford's going to be ready to go, playing well. They're going to be up for this. It's a really tough place to play. Coach Daw's terrific. And, Notre Dame has won here in Stanford since that crummy 3-9. Charlie White, that was like 2009, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, 2000. No, wasn't that 2007? And so I just think Notre Dame's going to have a tough time, especially with Kamari Russell out. They're a little bit under man. I hope the committee takes into consideration that Pro-Sites is out and Kamari Russell is out when they start to do the evaluations. They're all into this injury thing now.
Right.
But it just seems like Deshaun Kaiser has slipped a little bit. He obviously did not play well at all against Boston College. It seems like that positive momentum that he's shown has kind of slipped a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it doesn't get to his head for a first-year starter here. Obviously he's been through the ringer here quite a bit, so he's a poised kid. I don't know. I like Stanford in this game. As far as score-wise, 28-24.
Ooh, Stanford with a 28-24. Well, I would love to say I hope you're wrong. Because I would like to.
I've never been a Notre Dame homer. I've been
sure.
Process.
Sure.
I've been covering it for a long time, but I'm still trying to call it like a seed. I think a lot of people that tell me this week that, you're just covering Notre Dame because you're a homer. I've never, ever been a Notre Dame homer.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I just don't know.
Well,
I don't know how.
Yeah, we've actually established that on this show at one point.
In studio next week, Todd.
Just to see Oklahoma barely survive and go from 7 to 3 was really, really surprising to me.
Right. Well, my heart says, I'd really like to see Notre Dame win this. My head says I'm afraid you're right. So, anyhow, Todd, Steve Dennerman is yelling about you need to get in the studio. So let's see if we can't get you here sometime very soon.
Yeah, you can count on it now. This is just, things slow down for me quite a bit here. This is like my last week of 60-hour work week. So I think I'm going to do one more story to go here, and I'll be all set. But thank you, Steve, for the time, man.
Hey, not a problem, brother. I appreciate you coming on short notice, man. So I will talk to you next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too, my friend. Thank you.
All right. And that is going to do it for us, my man. I think
that's it?
Yeah, that is it. Great success. Yeah, well, I mean, you know,
I'm going to go 24-17 Notre Dame.
You're going to go 24-17 Notre Dame. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a barn burner. I'm going to go 31-30 Stanford.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be
a lot of points on the board, huh?
A lot of points on the board. Notre Dame hasn't seen an offense this good in a long time.
McCaffrey does that.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyhow, that's going to wrap it up for us, man. I think we're going to call it a cake, especially since we've run over.
I think we have to. We have to call it a cake. And happy birthday to my son, 23 years old today. I gotta throw that out to him.
Yep, absolutely. Happy birthday, Zach. So good on you, man. Many more. I hope you outlive your old man by 100 years.
He's our Michigan insider.
Yeah, absolutely. He's our new stat boy.
That's right, stat boy.
Stat boy Zach.
I'm sure he'll love that.
Oh, he's gonna love it.
Oh, he will.
All right. Well, we're gonna get you on out of here, man.
I will see you next week. I'll be there in studio.
Yes, get your butt in here for next week, Josh Briggs will be here, and Todd Burlage, we'll get him in here fairly soon.
Right.
It's coming. You guys go enjoy your weekend. Eat some turkey sandwiches. I know you got to. And go enjoy some football, some NBA basketball. And we will talk to you next week. For Steve Detterman, this is Steve Willis. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
All right. And we are clear.
Great show.
Yeah, good on you, man. That was good stuff.
You can have that up on Facebook?
Oh, yeah, very shortly.
Cool.
You gotta do some wrong. Got hella shit going on.
That was good, sir.
Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. All right.